My wife ran off with a fake tech CEO and called him her soulmate, so I let her chase her dream, until the truth flipped her world inside out in just 48 hours. I remember thinking I was being sweet. The flight from Seattle had landed just past noon, 2 days earlier than planned. The convention turned out to be a bust, half the speakers canceled, and attendance was embarrassingly thin. I could have stayed, networked a little more, played the part, but all I really wanted was to be home. My name's Mason. I'm 31, a commercial pilot based out of Phoenix, Arizona. Been flying since I was 22. I've got a house in Paradise Valley, a smart home set up with all the bells and whistles, and until about 5 minutes after I walked through the front door, I thought I had a pretty good marriage. Clara's 29, an artist turned part-time design consultant. We've been married 5 years. She'd been hinting for months about this upscale sushi lounge downtown Kaido, I think it's called. Reservations are hard to get unless you book weeks out. So, like a good husband, I'd made 2 spots for Friday night. I had planned it down to the hour. Land early, surprise her with flowers and a handwritten note, and whisk her off to dinner like some rom-com cliché. Thought I was being thoughtful. When I stepped into the house, I immediately noticed something was off. The air was too still. No music playing. No smell of her perfume or paint. Normally, our home greeted me, motion sensors flipping on the soft lighting, that little welcoming chime from the system, but that day, nothing responded. It was like the house already knew she was gone. I set my duffel bag down by the entryway and called out her name. No answer. The silence pressed against my ears. Walking through the living room, I passed the smart hub panel. Offline. That was weird. Clara loved her gadgets, kept them synced constantly. I went toward the kitchen, trying to ignore the growing tightness in my chest. That's when I saw it. A single sheet of linen paper sat on the Marble Island counter, folded clean down the middle. I opened it. I found someone who inspires me. He's my soulmate. I've moved in with him. Expect contact from my lawyer. That was it. No signature. No, love, Clara. Just that cold little paragraph like it was a memo from a business meeting. I stared at it, not moving, not breathing. My eyes traced the words over and over, but they didn't change. They didn't soften. Eventually, I walked into our bedroom. Half the closet was empty. All her shoes, gone. Her favorite scarf still hung there, probably forgotten in the rush. The nightstand where she kept her charging dock, cleared. In the guest room, the tablet and our backup laptop, both gone. So were the expensive Bose headphones I bought her last Christmas. I don't know how long I stood there, but at some point, I pulled my phone from my pocket and dialed Joel, my lawyer. Then I called Luke, my older brother, former Marine, now a private security consultant. He answered on the second ring. Hey, what's up? She's gone, I said, my voice flat. Clara left a note. Says she found her soulmate. There was a pause. You want me to come over? Yeah, I said quietly. Yeah, I think I do. Despite everything, I wasn't crying, not yelling, just still, numb. The kind of calm that comes after a plane drops 20,000 feet and somehow levels out again. I folded the note and put it back on the counter. Then I poured myself a glass of water and waited for the fallout to start. Luke showed up an hour later in his black Tacoma, boots crunching across the gravel driveway. He didn't knock, just walked in like he always did. I was still sitting at the counter with the note in front of me, sipping cold coffee that had gone bitter. He scanned the room like it was a mission zone. Then his eyes landed on the paper. That it? He asked. I nodded. He picked it up, read it once, then again, and let out a low whistle. Well, that's cold. He set it down gently, like it might explode. You okay? He asked. No, I said, but I will be. He pulled out the chair across from me and Saturday. When did she get weird? That question hit me harder than I expected, because I didn't have an answer right away. Or maybe I didn't want to admit I did. I exhaled through my nose. Maybe 6 months ago. No, more like a year. Luke raised an eyebrow. Talk to me. So I did. I told him about Krista. Clara met her at some high-end art gallery thing in Scottsdale. Krista was flashy, bleach blonde, surgically perfect, all designer handbags and cryptic Instagram quotes about energy and luxury. Called herself a creative consultant, but as far as I could tell, she just posted thirst traps and sponsored teeth whitening ads. After they started hanging out, Clara changed. She dyed her hair lighter, got lash extensions, started spending entire weekends out for client dinners with people I never met. She stopped painting altogether, said she was evolving. She pushed for an expensive kitchen remodel, open shelving, quartz countertops, even though ours was barely 5 years old. And when I suggested we wait a bit, she accused me of holding her back, said I didn't understand her growth. Intimacy. Gone. She stopped reaching for my hand in public, stopped kissing me goodnight. When I brought it up, she said she was working on herself, that she needed space. I gave it to her, and I never pushed, because I trusted her. Stupidly. Luke leaned back in the chair, arms crossed. This Krista chick sounds like a walking red flag. Yeah, I said quietly. I thought she was harmless. He shook his head. Clara didn't just fall into this. She planned it, groomed herself for it. And Krista? She was the catalyst. I didn't see it coming. That's because you were looking at her like your wife, not like a mark. That stung. Luke leaned in, his voice lower now. This isn't just a messy breakup, Mason. Something's off. Too clean, too coordinated. She pulled tech, clothes, backups, left a note that sounds like a damn press release. I didn't say anything. I was still chewing on that word, Mark. She's not just gone, man. Luke added. She's executing a plan. I looked at him. You think she's trying to take more than just the clothes? He nodded. I think she's already been taking. I swallowed hard, something bitter rising in my throat. Then I picked up the phone and called Joel again. Joel's office sat in a quiet corner suite of a mid-rise in Tempe, lined with old flight plaques and model jets. A nod to his Air Force days. He didn't waste time on small talk. As soon as I sat down, he spun his laptop around and got to work. I pulled the house records this morning, he said, tapping the screen. It's still in your name. Sole owner, title, mortgage, smart system licenses, all under you. I let out a small breath. So she can't touch it. Correct. She has no legal claim, no co-ownership, no community property on this residence unless she can prove she invested significantly in renovations. Which she didn't, right? Not a dime, I said. Everything was on my card. Joel nodded, already typing. Good. That helps. Now let's look at the financials. He brought up our joint bank account, the one we both used for groceries, vacations, and minor household stuff. You ever review this closely? He asked. Honestly, no. I just transferred funds every couple weeks. He clicked into the transaction history and scrolled. She was smart. Look here. Every few days for the past 16 months, she's been pulling out between $60 and $300. Nothing crazy at once, but consistent. My jaw tightened. How much total? He glanced at the figure at the bottom of the report. 21,400 and change. I blinked. She bled me out in teaspoons. She was setting up an escape route, Joel said, and doing it slowly enough to stay off your radar. I sat back, mind racing. Where was the money going? Joel pulled up a property records database. That's the next part. I cross-referenced a few shell companies that popped up on her credit file. Guess what I found? He turned the screen to me. A luxury condo, downtown Phoenix, paid through an LLC called Silver Coral Ventures. She used a shell company, he said. Bought this unit 2 years ago, listed it under the company. Then 6 months ago, she transferred ownership to herself personally, probably right after you filed taxes, and she saw the refund come in. I stared at the photo of the condo. Floor-to-ceiling windows, rooftop pool. It looked like something from a Netflix show about influencers. She used my money to build her second life, I said quietly. Joel nodded. She was laying the groundwork for a clean break. The note wasn't impulsive. It was the final step. There was a long pause. Do I have any recourse? I asked. He steepled his fingers. Not criminal unless she forged your name or tampered with secure funds. But civil? Maybe. Especially if she dipped into business money. Did she ever ask you to cover her consulting expenses? I nodded slowly. Yeah. A few trips to LA, some branding stuff she charged through the joint. Start compiling it. Every receipt, every text or email where she asked for money. I sat forward, my voice firmer now. You think she planned all this with Krista? Joel hesitated. Wouldn't surprise me. People like that don't just drift. They orbit each other for convenience. If Krista benefits financially, she's part of it. I looked at the condo photo again, then at the account summary. She wanted out, I said. She could have just left, but she chose to rob me on the way. Joel gave a single nod. She thought you wouldn't notice or care. People like Clara mistake silence for weakness. I stood. My chair scraped the tiles softly. Not anymore, I said. Let's draw the line. 48 hours after Joel pulled the records, Clara finally broke the silence. My phone buzzed while I was out back tossing the ball with Hunter. One look at the screen told me everything I needed. Her name, flashing over and over. I didn't answer. A minute later came the first text. Clara, hey, just checking in. We should talk. I didn't expect to find the house completely locked down. 10 minutes after that. Clara, I know the note was abrupt. I was just overwhelmed. Can we please handle this like adults? Then another. Clara, you're being unreasonable. I'm trying to keep things civil. I scrolled through them with the same blank expression I used in Bad Turbulence. Luke, sitting nearby on the porch, noticed. That her? He asked. I just held up the phone. He nodded like he'd expected this exact moment. She's not ready for you being calm, he said. She's banking on a reaction. I'm not giving her one. He cracked a sunflower seed between his teeth. Good. Let her stew. By the end of the day, she'd sent 16 texts and called 7 times. She used every angle. Concern, guilt, logic. The tone kept shifting like she was cycling through a script. First worried wife, then wounded victim, then confident negotiator. Then came the kicker. Clara, I think we should just split the home. It's fair. We built it together. I didn't respond, not even a period. The next morning, the pressure shifted. A new number called me just after breakfast. I let it ring, then played the voicemail. Hey Mason, it's Richard, Clara's father. I froze, listening. I hadn't spoken to Richard in months. We'd always been cordial, but not close. The kind of in-law relationship where you bonded over shared confusion at family reunions. His voice sounded stiff, like he wasn't sure if he was more confused or disappointed. She told me, she said you two agreed to separate. Amicably. I just wanted to understand what happened. I stared at the phone, then tapped call back, before I could second guess it. He picked up on the first ring. Richard, I said, glad you reached out. A pause. So what's really going on? I didn't sugarcoat it. I told him about the note, about coming home early, about the closet, the tech, the condo. I kept it calm, no dramatics, just facts. He didn't interrupt, just listened. When I finished, there was a long silence. Finally, He let out a breath. Damn, he muttered. I didn't know. I figured. She told us this was mutual, that you were too focused on work, that you'd both just drifted. Nope, I said plainly. She drifted with my credit card and my trust. Another pause. I hate to say it, Richard said, voice quieter now, but she's more like her mother than I thought. That caught me off guard. What do you mean? He hesitated. Clara's mom walked out on us, too. Left a letter, took the savings, disappeared with someone she met at a conference. I blinked. I didn't know that. We don't talk about it, he said. Too painful. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. Well, I said, seems history repeats itself. Richard sighed. If you need anything, I mean it, Mason. Thanks, I said, but I've got it handled. And I did, because silence wasn't just a strategy. It was power. By the end of the week, Clara stopped pretending I didn't exist. The text slowed, but the damage control began, just not in the way she thought. It started with Krista. Luke sent me a screenshot one night, just past 10 p.m., Krista's latest Instagram post. White text over a filtered photo of her pool. Some people are just stepping stones to your higher self. Level up and let them go. Caption, leaving the past behind, new era only. Guess where the past? Luke muttered, flipping through more of her feed. She's been soft-launching this Evan guy. Who? I asked, not sure I even wanted the answer. Luke turned his phone toward me. There he was, Evan, early 40s, forced stubble, Ferrari hat, standing in front of what was clearly a rented Lamborghini. Bio said, tech visionary, app creator, CEO at Infinix. I stared. Infinix. Luke grinned. Yeah, I already checked. It's a vaporware startup pitching an AI-driven smart fridge app. No product, no engineers, just PowerPoint slides and pitch decks. Let me guess, I said. He's leasing the car? Every month. Records show he's behind on 2 of them. So that was Clara's upgrade. Her soulmate. A guy who probably rehearsed startup buzzwords in front of the mirror and treated investment meetings like Tinder dates. Meanwhile, her condo? Joel found that the building had racked up 3 city violations in the last 6 months. Water pressure issues, poor wiring, and some kind of mold remediation warning. Worst part? The HOA was suing the developer. She owns a lemon in the sky, Joel said, deadpan. I didn't laugh, but I did feel something. Not joy, not vengeance, just clarity. She thought she was trading up, but all she'd done was put herself on a sinking ship with velvet cushions. And then, like clockwork, Clara showed up. Not a text, not a call. She came in person. I was in the garage when I saw her Tesla pull into the driveway like she still belonged there. She stepped out in oversized sunglasses and heels that didn't belong in a desert driveway, strutting toward the front door. Hunter barked once, but didn't move. He just watched. So did I. I opened the door before she could knock. Mason, she said. Surprised, I answered. Clara. She glanced past me, into the house. Can we talk? I stepped aside. You've got 5 minutes. She walked in like she'd rehearsed it. Slow glances around the room. Long exhale. A slight tremble in her voice. I didn't come to fight. I just think we should be reasonable. Reasonable? I echoed. Like ghosting your husband by letter and siphoning off 21 grand? She flinched. Not much, but enough. I wasn't trying to hurt you, she said. I just needed something more. More like a condo and a crash test, CEO, I said. Her lips pressed into a line. That condo is mine. It is, I said. Along with the $9,300 in fines and the cracked HVAC. Joel pulled the reports. Not a great investment. She blinked, thrown. You had someone check on it? You left me a letter, Clara, I said, crossing my arms. That wasn't privacy. That was abandonment. She didn't speak for a second. Then she tried another angle, soft voice, tilted head. This doesn't have to be ugly. We could split the house, the assets. Start fresh. I stared at her. The house, I said slowly, is in my name. It always was. I contributed emotionally. I cut her off. That's not how deeds work. Her eyes hardened, just for a moment. The charm cracked. You don't want to drag this out, she said quietly. I'm just trying to be fair. I smiled, small and cold. So am I. And then I closed the door. On her, and on the fantasy. The next time Clara called, she didn't bother pretending. No, hey, no, can we talk? Just straight into it. I need your help. I was sitting at the breakfast bar, sipping coffee and reading through parts inventory for my aircraft furniture business. I put her on speaker and kept scrolling. Evan's startup hit a wall, she said. He lost a major investor. We need capital fast or the app won't launch. I didn't respond. We're not asking for a handout, she added quickly. Just something to get things stable so we can relaunch in the fall. You could sell the house, make a huge return, split it with me, use the rest to reinvest or whatever. It's a win-win. I set my mug down and looked at the phone like it had personally offended me. Let me get this straight, I said. You left me, stole from me, lied to me, and now you want me to finance your boyfriend's dying app. She went quiet for a beat. Then, it's not like that. How is it? Then, this doesn't have to be personal, Mason. It's just business. You have the resources. And you, I said, have no shame. She tried to laugh it off. Okay, wow, that's dramatic. I took a deep breath, tone even. You want to talk business? Fine. You're living in a condo you can't afford, with a man whose company doesn't exist, holding on to violations that cut the value of your one real asset in half. You drained our joint account, committed borderline financial fraud, And now you want a bailout? From the guy you ghosted by post-it note? She tried to speak, but I wasn't done. I've documented everything. The siphon transfers, the shell company purchase, even the false address you listed on your condo's loan app to boost your approval score. Clara's voice dropped an octave. You went through my financials? My lawyer did. You made it real easy. You weren't as slick as you thought. There was a pause. I could hear her breathing. Look, she said, and the fake confidence was gone. I made mistakes, but Evan's just in a bad spot, and I didn't think everything would fall apart like this. I didn't say anything. I shouldn't have left like that. I know, but you weren't exactly warm the last few months. You buried yourself in work, in that stupid garage with your dog. I smirked. Still better company than a scammer and a leased Ferrari. Silence. Then her voice softened. Can we just wipe the slate clean? Start over. Maybe not as a couple, just as two people who meant something to each other. I looked around the kitchen, my home, the one she tried to erase herself from. No, I said, we're not starting over. You already rolled the dice, and you lost. She didn't say anything. By the way, I added, I forwarded the false loan documents to the bank. You might want to get ahead of that before the IRS calls. Her voice cracked. Mason, please, you can't do this. I already did. I ended the call. 5 minutes later, a final text came in. Clara, this isn't over. I deleted it without reading the rest, because for me, it was. The house felt different after that. Not haunted, just hollow in a good way, like it was finally mine again. I started with the obvious. First thing to go was Clara's art room. It had always been the brightest room in the house. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, and her old easel in the corner. I converted it into a gym, ripped up the rugs, laid down rubber tiles, mounted a wall mirror. When the weight rack arrived, Luke helped me haul it in. You realize this is the room she said she needed for creative clarity? He asked, grinning. I nodded, tossing him a wrench. Now it'll help me clear my head too. He laughed. Fair enough. After that, I let Hunter, my German shepherd, start sleeping on the bed again. He'd always curled up on the floor out of habit, but once Clara was gone, I patted the mattress one night and said, come on up, buddy. He hesitated like it was a trick, then leapt up and sprawled across half the king-sized space like he owned it. He didn't even ask twice after that. The silence that used to make my skin crawl was different now. It was the kind you earn, the kind that means no one's lying to your face in your own kitchen. In the meantime, my side business exploded. It started slow, just me refurbishing old aircraft parts into high-end furniture. Cockpit panels turned into desks, wing flaps into coffee tables. But after a few photos went viral on a design forum, orders started coming in fast. By the end of the month, I'd hired a part-time welder and rented out extra workshop space near the airport. Luke stopped by one afternoon, took one look at a riveted aluminum console table I was finishing, and whistled. You gonna start charging what this stuff's worth? Already did, I said. He grinned. Good. You earned this, man. Every bit of it. Meanwhile, Clara's fantasy started collapsing in slow, visible motion. First came the condo. Luke sent me the listing. She was trying to offload it through some luxury realtor. But with the city violations still pending and half the units in the building under foreclosure review, no one bit. The listing price kept dropping every week. The last I saw, it was down nearly 40%. Then Evan's company folded. Publicly, some investor out of Nevada filed suit claiming fraud. No app, no prototype, just a glorified deck and a $5,000 mock-up website. The guy skipped town, left behind a pile of burned contacts and a maxed-out credit card trail. The cherry on top? Clara got audited. Joel had reported the false loan paperwork to the right people, and it triggered a deeper look. Suddenly, the IRS was knocking on her door asking why her consulting firm showed six-figure income with no clear source. A month later, she showed up at my door, hair frazzled, eyes puffy, wearing the same oversized sweater I hadn't seen since our second year of marriage. I have nowhere else to go, she said, voice trembling. I didn't say anything, just handed her a manila folder, copies of the siphon transactions, her signed loan docs, and a printout of the condo's repair fines. She flipped through it, hands shaking. What is this? Proof, I said, of everything, just in case you try to spin it in court. Tears welled in her eyes. I messed up, Mason. I know that. She looked up at me, voice barely above a whisper. Can you forgive me? I didn't flinch. It doesn't matter anymore. Then I closed the door. She stood there for a second, like she couldn't believe I meant it. But I did, because freedom doesn't beg. It just moves on. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks later. No alimony, no claim on the house, no drawn-out legal circus. Just a clean, sterile packet of paperwork delivered to Joel's office, signed and stamped. I didn't even have to see Clara in court. She waived appearance and signed her share quietly. Maybe she knew there was nothing left to fight for. I remember flipping through the final decree, each page feeling lighter than the last. Joel closed the file, slid it across the desk, and looked up at me. You good? I nodded. Better than good. He smiled. Then don't let her back in. Not even emotionally. I won't, I said. And I meant it. Clara's life didn't just stall. It went full reverse. The condo was condemned shortly after she moved out. Mold issues turned out to be structural, and the city slapped it with a notice that made selling impossible. She tried living with Krista, But that didn't last. Two self-centered people fighting over shrinking attention doesn't end in peace. It ends in tears and locked closets. She lost her real estate license, too. Fraud on a loan application does that. Last I heard, she moved in with her parents in Sun City West. Richard called me again, once, just to say he was sorry. Told me Clara admitted everything. That she said, I ruined my marriage for a man who disappeared in a condo that's rotting. I didn't say much in return, because there was nothing left to say. The house. I made it mine again. Painted the walls in darker tones. Got rid of all the accent chairs she insisted on, the ones no one ever sat in. Built a bigger workbench in the garage. Mounted a flat screen in the bedroom, something she used to say was tacky. Hunter still slept next to me, curled up at the foot of the bed like a living furnace. He barked less now, like the tension was gone. Maybe he understood more than I ever gave him credit for. The business kept growing. We were shipping to clients in New York, LA, and even overseas. Some guy in Tokyo paid $8,000 for a wingtip coffee table. Joel said I should start thinking about scaling. I said I was thinking about peace. One night, I climbed up to the roof deck, just after sunset. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that didn't ache anymore. Hunter followed me up, tail wagging lazily. I sat back in the lounge chair, a blanket around my shoulders, a glass of rye in my hand. The sky was soft with color, orange fading to purple, the last bit of sun dipping behind the mountains. My phone buzzed once. It was a message from Richard. Richard, she says she knows she lost the best thing she ever had. Finally admitted it wasn't you, it was her. I stared at the screen for a long second. Then I locked it and set it face down on the table. I didn't need closure. I didn't need an apology. I had peace. And as the Arizona night settled in, I looked out over the horizon, alone, finally whole, and whispered something I hadn't said in a long time. Thank God she's gone. Hunter huffed softly and laid his head on my foot. We stayed like that for hours. No more storms. No more warnings. Just quiet sky, clean air, and the freedom to breathe.